everyone. I'm April Rochelle of BASHAR Communications, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to an exciting 3-day weekend with BASHAR. It's always exciting when he comes through, and also all the information that he shares is very unique, and it's a new way of seeing the world in many ways. Tonight's session is entitled The Metaphysics of Physics, and this session is about the template level reality and how we actually manifest the physicalized representation of basically the idea of as above, so below. Or is it the other way around? So above, no, I guess I got it right. So anyway, I was wondering, how many people here are seeing BASHAR in person for the first time? Oh. So that's great. I'm glad so many more people are finding out about BASHAR's information and how much it really changes your life when you apply these principles. The rest of the weekend is also going to be very exciting. Tomorrow, we're going to show a screening of the documentary First Contact that Daryl and I worked on. And so that's what we're doing tomorrow afternoon. And then tomorrow evening, we have another 2-hour session with a holotope. The session tomorrow evening is entitled The Triad Mind. And this is all about the heart mind, the head mind, and the higher mind, and how these are all needing to work together in order to create the reality that you desire. So it's really giving you, really will demonstrate the principles of how if you follow your passion and you understand how to balance the heart mind, the head mind, and the higher mind, then you'll have a much more effective experience once you understand how to do that. And then on Sunday morning, starting at 11, we have another 2-hour session, followed by a holotope. And it's also Father's Day, so it's a nice day to spend with BASHAR. And that session's entitled Nature's Social Network. And this is all about all the elements of nature, the animals, the plants, the rocks, the nature spirits, and how to tune into that, and how to become much more close with nature and understand the messages that nature are giving you. So, and that's actually sort of what happens when you swim with the dolphins in Hawaii. I did want to mention about the upcoming dolphin workshop. I'm not sure if you are familiar with this idea, but several years ago, BASHAR created a 5-day guided meditation series designed for swimming with wild dolphins. And I live in Kona part-time, and so one of the things I do is hold this workshop utilizing these guided meditations, as well as going out on a boat every day for 5 days and spending 4 hours out on the water and swimming with our dolphin friends in Hawaii. We have a pod of spinner dolphins there. There's probably several thousand dolphins. But this is the only place in the world where people have created a community with dolphins. And I've been swimming with them for over 20 years. So I know them, and I know their children, and I know their children's children. And they literally introduce us to their children right away when they're born. And then after that, we develop a relationship with them, swimming with them. And we have our own special games that we play together, like leaf game, where we bring leaves into the water and the dolphins swim up and take them and laugh at us because we're so slow. And they do laugh at us. I want you to know that. So it's an incredible experience to connect with the dolphins because they live in a buoyant world where they're in a constant state of joy and ecstasy. And when you're with them and you're swimming with them over and over and over, and they're looking in your eyes and they're playing games with you, when that happens, it changes you. And with the guided meditations BASHAR has designed, it literally takes you into a deep Esasani world of magic and dolphins and freedom and ecstasy. So if you're interested, we're going to do another workshop in October from October 22nd to the 28th in Kona, Hawaii. And there is another cetacean workshop that we do in February. It's called The Whales of Atlantis, and this event is a week-long live-aboard experience where you go to the Dominican Republic and you get on a gorgeous yacht. It really is a yacht. It's amazing. I mean, you can literally lay in your bed and watch the whales go by because we're 80 miles out to sea, and we spend a week out there, and all we do really is eat, sleep, get in the boats at like 8:30 in the morning to go look for the whales, and we finish our day at 6:30 at night. And the entire day is devoted to finding whales that we can get in the water with and swim with. And that's another amazing experience, is to have eye contact with a whale. So lots of exciting things happen out there. So if you feel the call, respond to your inner mermaid or merman and come and swim with the dolphins. So, and lastly, we do our next event is in July 8th, up in Oakland or San Francisco area, and it's called the Manifestation Space. And that session is going to be all about how manifestation works and some of the key mechanisms involved in it. I think he's taking us to another level with understanding how to manifest. So lots of exciting things to come, and we'll be in Sedona in September. And for those of you that this is the first time, buckle up. Okay, so are you ready? Yeah? Good. Okay, so it's my great pleasure to introduce to you the very talented Channel 4 BASHAR, Daryl Enka.
All right, guys, again, thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm just going to go right ahead and let BASHAR come through, so have fun. I will see you later. Bye-bye. Welcome. A little say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. All right, thank you. Once again, we thank each and every one of you individually and all of you together collectively for the co-creation of this interaction between our respective civilizations, and for giving us the opportunity to experience through each and every one of you another viewpoint, another perspective, another way that all that is has of experiencing itself within the creation that it is. We would like to begin this transmission, this day of your time, having titled it, The Metaphysics of Physics. And what we basically mean by this is that, as has been discussed many times from many different sources, the idea of physical reality is that it is a projection of consciousness. In a sense, it is like a dream. It isn't really out there around you. It isn't really solid in the classical meaning of that word. But the idea is that everything that exists in physical reality, in some way, shape, or form, begins within the consciousness as a resonance pattern, as a template, as a blueprint, if you will. And thus that blueprint, that energy pattern, is in a sense crystallized within the consciousness into the format that you perceive and experience as physical reality. Now the idea then is that, as we have discussed, and as have many of you realized, physical reality contains different kinds of reflections. The basic ones you would generally say are the positive and the negative, But then there is also the neutral, which is what makes physical reality not a duality, but a trinity. There is always the middle part, always the balance point. This is energetically what allows you to create the reality you prefer, because there is always going to be a way in which you can blend and balance the positive, the negative, coming from the neutral place in order to generate whatever kind of an experience that you prefer or that you chose as a theme of exploration. But how this idea of the neutral place and the positive and negative energies that exist or are experienced within physical reality express themselves in the physical reality is quite fascinating. The idea of what you consider to be matter and the constituents of matter that make up your physical reality, what you would call the subatomic particles, so on and so forth, also do express this idea of the Trinity within their basic fundamental structure. First and foremost, most simply, you have, as many of you know from taking certain classes in your school, that an atom is generally made up of three components. You have the positively charged proton, you have the negatively charged electron, and you have the neutral neutron. Aptly named, don't you think? However, what you may not realize is how apt this structure is, how expressive it is in a very specific and precise way to the idea of the energy patterns that we've already described. Many of you may not realize that a neutron, if, shall we say, left to its own devices, a free neutron not connected within an atomic structure, actually breaks down into a proton and an electron. So the idea is that the neutral particle is neutral because it is made up of, in a sense, positive charges, negative charges, and it expresses these things and manifests these things as the two seemingly opposite elementary particles of the proton and the electron. And because it contains both charges, that's why it is also able to be attracted to the proton or attract a proton to it, as well as the electron, because the neutron, shall we say, has kind of layers to it energetically. Now, understand, of course, what we are saying is somewhat euphemistic, but it's a good way to illustrate the point. The neutron, being neutral because it contains both charges, does this in a particular way, sort of like a layer cake. Because the proton cannot be attracted to another positively charged particle easily, the neutron must attract it. If it is to attract it at all, it must have some kind of a charge with which to do so. So the skin of the neutron, so to speak, is actually negatively charged to attract the proton. But it is also in its body positively charged to also attract the electron. So it does double duty in that way and creates and gives structure to the concept that you call the atom. Now, because it is able to break down into the proton and the electron and a few other things we won't go into right now that are, for the purpose of this illustration, somewhat superfluous, you begin to get the understanding that the neutron, in a sense, is a little bit bigger than both of them. It has, in your scientific terminology, more mass than the proton. Way more mass than the electron, of course. But it contains both, so it has to, in a sense, be more massive than both, so that when it breaks down, there is a sufficient amount of mass to express the proton and the electron. So the idea of the neutral state, energetically speaking, in your life, in your experience as a state of being, is similar. The idea is that the neutral state contains the potential for both a positive and a negative experience based on the meaning that you give to the neutral situation that is there to begin with. Now, in another transmission coming up in what you would call your near future, we're going to go more deeply into the idea of exactly what we mean when we talk about fundamental neutral states. For that transmission will help you understand how to identify neutral states more clearly and thus be more capable of infusing them with the positive or negative meaning that will then result in the idea of a positive or negative experience. But for now, it is sufficient to understand that this neutral state, like the neutron, contains the potential for both, and it is actually exemplified in physical reality by the very fact that the neutron itself is capable of breaking down into both physically. Now, let's look a little bit at the electron. The electron is representative of the idea of the negative energy, and of course, when we talk about it as an energetic state, we're simply talking about the idea of that which is disconnective, dissociative, segregative, so to speak, whereas when we talk about the positive energy, we're talking about things that are integrative, expansive, connective, so to speak, as a mechanism. But also what's associated with the negative energy that we have discussed many times with many of you are the idea of negative beliefs. As we have said, belief systems, both positive and negative, must do something to perpetuate themselves because they're not really real. Physical reality is not really real. In a sense, it's a projection, it's a dream, it's an illusion. So the belief systems are designed to perpetuate themselves in such a manner as to make it seem as if the reality that they depict, the definition of reality that they depict, is actually real so that you can have an actual solid physical experience. But when it comes to the idea of positive beliefs, the positive beliefs are reflecting to you the true nature of your being, the true, powerful, self-empowered, creative, loving nature of your spirit, of your being, of your essence, of your existence. The negative belief systems, in a sense, have to work much harder than the positive beliefs to get you to buy into a scenario that is fundamentally not true about you. Because you are basically creative, positive beings, essentially. So in order to get you to have an experience that is negative, it has to tell you things that are fundamentally lies about yourself, and it has to reinforce those lies with every trick in the book that it can muster, every tool in its kit. Otherwise, you would see right through the smoke and mirrors and know that it is just an illusion and that what the negative beliefs are telling you about yourself has to be, by definition, false. So let's look now at the correlation, at the analogy in the electron. The idea of the atomic structure, as you understand it in your society now, is not so much the exact classical representation of a tiny little particle orbiting around the nucleus in a very clean sort of way like a planet around a sun. No. That's kind of an outdated, old-fashioned way of representing it. It's good as a general illustration. But you now know, your physicists now know, that the electrons sort of exist more in what they term a probability cloud. That is, you're never really sure exactly where it is. It's whipping around so fast. It's somewhere in this hazy cloud that surrounds the nucleus. Somewhere in there are a bunch of electrons, but where they are, we don't know until we take a measurement and freeze where it is. But then you don't really understand exactly what its path has been because you're freezing it into a static state. But when it's moving, you don't really know where it is at any given moment. So in a sense, it is similar to the idea of negative beliefs in that it creates this sort of ambiguous fuzzy cloud that you can't really get a grip on. And it fools you into thinking that there are certain things going on that are really only probabilities, really only potentials, and not really very solid at all until you yourself decide that you're going to take a particular idea, a particular definition, which is the same thing as an observation or a measurement, scientifically speaking, and in taking that perspective and taking that measurement, then you get what you designed the perspective for. You get what you designed the measurement or the experiment for. That's the result you get. So the electron does exemplify and does represent the way in which negative beliefs work, in that they're kind of fuzzy, you're not really sure what's going on, they tend to hide in your unconscious mind, so you can't make it easy to find them, so you won't let them go, because again, this is their way of perpetuating themselves, telling you lies and telling you more lies, and using tools like fear to prevent you from finding them, so that they can continue to get you to believe that what they're telling you about you is true when it's not. So that is a general correlation, whereas the idea of the proton, being the positively charged thing, being in a sense more easily observed because it is the very nature of the element you're looking at itself. It is the very identifying energy of the elements themselves. Then it's easy for you to see that directly. It doesn't have to hide. It doesn't have to confuse you. It doesn't have to fool you one way or the other. It is just telling you what you are. It is telling you what is. It is showing you your nature. So when you're looking at an element, let us say, for example, gold, or let us say mercury, you are really looking at the protons. That's what you're looking at, because it is the protons that determine what the element is. So they're easy to see, but the electrons, those sneaky little electrons, very tiny, buzzing around in their little B cluster cloud of probabilities. I'm over here. No, I'm not. I'm over here. No, I'm not. I'm over here. No, I'm not. Fooled you again. Shows you a direct correlation between the idea of the way the energy states themselves exist and the way that they actually crystallize down through your consciousness into the expression you call physical materiality. The trinary idea extends itself further because, as your scientists have discovered, or as they have created for themselves to perceive, even the idea of some of the so-called subatomic particles like the proton have other particles within them that you have called quarks. And those quarks generally also come in threes, which again shows you the trinity aspect of the existence of that energy. Again, the duality and the neutral place in between. This does not have to be completely absorbed at this time in this way. You don't necessarily have to have any kind of a physics degree to absorb and understand this. It is simply something for your consciousness to look at with curiosity, let it sink in, and let the idea of the energy states and the structures that they appear to create that you call physical reality have a lot to do with each other, are really just different expressions of the same thing. They're just different expressions of the state of being that is existence itself, expressing itself on all levels as that trinity. The only level on which such trinities don't exist or dualities exist is what we would call the one. That is the homogeneous one state where there is no differentiation whatsoever, but because there is no differentiation, there is also no experience, no awareness. It takes the all that is to be aware of itself. It's the first reflection to itself that there is the appearance of an other that creates that idea that starts splitting into the, well, there is this, and there is that, and there is this relationship in the middle. So really, the neutron and the neutral state that give rise to the experience of the positive and negative sides, the proton, the electron, the neutron itself and the neutral state is actually more precisely the reality that you call reality. Whereas the projections that come from it are the reflective illusions based on the information you have put into it, such as a positive meaning or a negative meaning, a positive definition or a negative definition. But the neutron and the neutral state is actually what you are as an existence, as a reality, and everything is contained within it, and everything can be expressed from it. Does that make sense to you? All right. So, just let that sink in. It's a little bit of physics fun. At this time, in return for the gift that you have given us in allowing us to experience each and every one of you, I ask now, how may we be of service to you? You may begin, if you wish, with your questions and dialogue.
Hi, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
So excited to feel your energy. I have several questions. I was like picking up the best.
Speak up, speak up.
I will speak up.
Thank you.
All right. So
everyone needs to hear what you have to share.
Yes. So many things. But well, first of all, I would like to thank you for sharing with us whatever.
It is always our joy, our pleasure, our passion, our excitement to do so, whether any of you are listening or not. That's just who we are.
Okay.
But thank you for the co-creation.
Good. I wanted to maybe to start with something that pops in my mind, I just wonder whether you would be willing to connect with this.
Well, we'll
or
find
not.
out, won't
All
we?
right, okay. It's about what Willa said once. There was like a session of 5 levels of mastery, and
Yes.
there was one level which is sage, and
Yes.
it included, as far as I can remember now, allowance of consciousness of the other people to participate in a created reality.
Yes.
So is
Consciously.
yes, how
Because it's already being done, obviously. You're all agreeing to participate in a reality that seems similar to other people's realities, but that's all being done from that level of agreement. It's just that the sage can do it consciously in a way that allows people to go into agreement in such a manner that they actually can see the reality around them change consciously, physically, because they are being invited into a frequency that allows them to perceive multiple parallel reality configurations.
now I get it. Okay.
Yes.
So it's up to the sage to
Extend the
able-
invitation.
Right, to be able to tune up to that frequency,
Yes,
which will
but
be
the
compatible.
sage knows how to do that in such a way that it is highly likely that other people will engage in that invitation and perceive what the sage is vibrating at.
I got it.
Yes.
So that's the challenge. Okay.
Yes.
One more question
Yes.
is about my job. What I do is I'm training actors, and I do believe that that's
One expression of your passion.
yes, but more
There was
than,
some
more,
hesitation there.
And no, not at all.
All
no,
right.
no, I will surprise you. No, it's a way to work with consciousness and
Yes.
to actually in a sense, what you are doing when you connect to my higher self. because
Yes,
that's
all
what-
of you, when you do what you love to do, are in the channeling state.
Of course.
Acting is one of the ways to express the idea of expressing other aspects of your personality to such a degree that, in a sense, you truly become another person. That's the channeling state.
That's correct. So that's what I was going to say. Thank you for saying this
Yes.
for me. And my question is, do you have any suggestion of an exercise which could be great?
You're asking for a permission slip?
No, I'm asking for. Oh, maybe, I don't know. We have a bunch of exercises, but something
Yes.
that would come from you, because most of the exercises we have don't actually tune up to this concept.
All right.
Uh-huh.
Well, has your imagination come up with an exercise that you believe would work better for you?
Yes, it has.
Then
but
why are you asking us?
Because I wanted you to share something that would surprise me. Aren't you willing to do so?
You want a surprise permission slip.
Yes.
Do you understand what permission slips are, first of all?
Yes, of course I do.
All right. So, all right. Arrange 7 mirrors, full length, around you in a circle.
Okay.
Stand in the center. And for each of the mirrors and each of the reflections in each of the mirrors, know that you're not actually seeing a reflection. You are seeing through a window into another parallel reality version of yourself, literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
I'm familiar with this concept.
All right.
Good.
And therefore, as you engage each in a unique dialogue, allow yourself to begin to go with the flow of what each of the reflections, that is not a reflection, that is another version of you in a parallel reality, actually feels like saying to you, and start responding to that. And go around the circle and start having those 7 different conversations in 7 different styles as you take your cue from what you feel coming from that version of yourself in that parallel reality, and see what that does for you.
Wow, that's wonderful. Actually, what you're talking is about, you are talking to me about 7 versions of that, and in
Yes.
different. Yeah, good. Okay. Wow.
Does that help
Thank
you?
It definitely does.
Then do you have what you need?
I have another question. I have 2, 3 questions, right?
I don't know. We'll see if you are.
Oh, Oh,
But
there
you
are
can
no
ask it.
rules. Okay.
You can
okay.
ask it.
Do you have time? Yeah, okay.
It's all about the timing, and it's all about having what you need. But go ahead and we'll see. Sometimes the question you ask is something others may also wish to ask, and that
Sure.
way you can help answer it for them.
Sure. That's why I do care about asking stuff that's not for that would benefit eventually other
Tick
people.
tock.
Okay. Yep. And the other question is, well, I believe you learned something from communicating with our civilization.
Of course we do.
Is there something that's unique about the experience you're having with our civilization?
Well, as we have said, one of the most unique things is watching you attempting to stuff yourself into a smaller space than you actually can occupy by limiting yourselves so fantastically. It's an amazing acrobatic act to watch. Many people in the galaxy would not believe that it would actually be possible to limit yourselves as much as you do.
Right, but that's why you call us masters of limitation.
That's why we call
right.
you masters of limitation. Yes.
Right.
It
so
is constantly amusing.
I know that because we buy into negative beliefs, but that,
Yes.
it's a nasty job, but someone has to do it, right?
And you have chosen to do so,
okay.
which makes you a master class in transformation.
Right, so we are kind of electrons that.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you.
Yeah, it's a compliment, I guess.
We know.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. Thank you.
Good day, Bashar.
And you good day.
Bashar, I am following my passion.
Yes.
I've become a teacher of lucid dreaming.
Oh, all right. How exciting.
It's very exciting.
Yes.
And I want to share a lucid dream with you
Oh, all right.
and get your feedback.
All right. If you need it.
So, in my dream, I am in a garage and something happens where I have that magical transformation and I realize that I'm dreaming.
Yes.
And I shout out to the dream space. I say, "Show me something important."
Yes.
And I begin to swirl around the garage, and I'm brought around to a bumper sticker on the wall, and it says, "Put your outer alien magnets on."
All right.
So what does it mean to put your outer alien magnets on?
It means that you can amp up your ability to perceive the information and experience that is coming to you along energetic lines of connection you have made to extraterrestrial sources. So in that you have made those connections, you can amplify them to more consciously receive the information that you are getting by having made those connections. You can attract magnetically more information.
I think standing here today is a way of putting my outer alien
It's
magnet.
one way, yes. We are happy to be magnetized by you.
So as the dream continued, I entered the house.
Yes.
And there was a kitchen, and my mother was on a bed in the kitchen, and
Yes.
she had two small children on her lap. And she says to me, "Oh, you haven't met Polar Bear yet."
Yes.
Polar Bear being the nickname of one of the children.
Yes.
Can you tell me anything about Polar Bear?
Polarity.
Ah, polarity.
Yes, polarity. Understand that at this point, even though you understand you are dreaming, you are still experiencing what might be called a screen projection of other beings communicating with you in a style that your physical mind will understand. You're still not seeing the raw experience
Right.
of those beings, but your physical mind needs to work with certain symbols that make sense to it so that the information you're being given will be downloaded correctly and interpreted correctly for your reality. So even though you can have some degree of lucidity in such experiences, in many cases you will still experience things that are somewhat symbolic. Nevertheless, you're being given an opportunity to know that there is a connection there for you of a being that exhibits the idea of polarity so that you can work with that concept a little bit more consciously.
Okay, thank you.
Yes?
One other dream to share.
Yes.
In this dream, I'm looking into a garage again. This time I'm in the house, and it's like a window into the garage. And at first I think I see a child.
Yes.
At this point, I've realized when I see this sort of small person, I look more carefully, and I see it's actually a woman.
Yes.
Who's maybe middle-aged, but she's only about 3 or 4 feet tall.
Yes.
And she identifies herself as a fairy.
In a sense.
And at this point, when she says that, I have the realization that I'm dreaming.
Yes.
And we start to converse.
Yes.
And she asks me, can I talk to him? As if she's talking to some other element of me.
Yes.
Do you know what she was referring to or asking when she said, can I talk to him?
Yes, your higher mind.
So she wanted me at that moment to connect with my higher mind?
Yes. And channel it through. Talk to him through you.
And what is she looking to learn from my higher mind?
Oh, all sorts of things. So that she can understand you better, understand the theme you chose to explore, understand your physical mind from the higher mind's perspective, understand how it is that you have chosen to navigate the experience of physical reality, because reality for her is very different. So it's kind of like an ambassador attempting to understand a different culture through you, through the eyes of the higher mind, which it can relate to a little bit more easily than it can relate to the physical mind. So it wants the higher mind's perspective of your physical component so that it has a better chance of understanding you.
Very, very good.
Does that help?
That helps. I think I'm done.
Pleasant dreams.
Thank you.
Hello, Bashar.
And a you good day.
My first question to you is, for first contact specialists here on Earth, is there a crystal or a group of crystals that they can work with that can prepare them and help them be the best first contact specialist that we can be when that time comes?
Yes.
Can you please tell me what those crystals are?
Yes. I can.
Will you please, what are those crystals?
First and foremost, let's get this out of the way. P, repeat after me.
P,
E,
E,
R,
R,
M,
M,
I.
I,
You know where this is going?
S-S-I-O-N.
And what does that mean in context to your question?
That means that whatever permission slip I give myself, so whatever crystal.
Whatever you're most attracted to with that concept and intention in mind, you're attracted to because that's the one at that moment that will work for the person you have defined yourself to be in that moment. Okay. Yes?
Yes.
Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't general mass consensus agreements that already are in place where certain permission slips might be more representative of the mass consensus. One of those, in light of the question you have asked for the idea of extraterrestrial frequencies, is what you would call Moldavite. Ah. Yes?
It's the synchronicities are coming in because I was speaking to a friend about that crystal earlier before you started.
Whoa, what do you know? So the next question would be, do you trust the synchronicities that pop up in your life
Yes,
as obvious signs?
Yes, I do.
All right then. Please learn to understand how to trust the way your life unfolds and that the information you require is always going to be presented to you synchronistically in exactly the perfect way at exactly the perfect time. And therefore, you don't necessarily have to wonder whether you should go and ask someone else whether or not it's this or that when you already have the information. Yes?
Yes. And thank
that
you.
help?
Yes, thank you for that remembrance.
All right. Anything else?
Yes, I do. So about 2 years ago, I had 3 psychics back to back tell me that I was going to meet my twin flame. And I would know it when I met him. And I did. And
How do you know it's a him?
Well, when I met the person, it was clear to me that that was the person and he's the man.
All right. Just checking.
But Bashar,
Yes. But what?
I was frustrated. It did not, I
You
know.
were frustrated?
Well, because
Yes.
it did not go well, and there was resistance on.
I wonder if that could possibly have turned your attention to the idea that a twin flame doesn't always have to be for the purpose you think it is.
Oh.
Oh. What's our basic definition of relationships? Everyone in the relationship serves everyone else in the relationship by being the reflection they need at that moment to teach them how to be more of who they are, not what the person thinks the relationship should be for.
Yes.
Oh. So there are many kinds of twin flames. The idea doesn't necessarily always have to be reflective of what humans on your planet think of in the romantic sense. The idea is it's going to be the reflection that teaches you the most about yourself and gives you the opportunity to decide that you get to choose how to respond to things that come up that are unexpected in either a positive or a negative way, and that teaches you a lot about what you're willing to buy into about the truth of your own being.
Yes.
And no twin flame can do better than that.
Yes, and he did that. Yes.
All
Thank
right,
you.
then.
Thank you.
Does that help you?
Yes, it does.
All right.
And I have one more question.
Do you now?
Yes, and this is about Chiron. I am an astronumerologist, so
Yes.
I work with, I'm a spiritual psychologist, and I work with astrology and numerology.
Yes.
And I was given a download recently about Chiron,
Yes.
and that now that we're in the 21st century, Chiron does not represent what that planet or that's whatever it is was in the 20th century. So I wanted to know if you could give me some clarification
On that permission slip?
well, Chiron as a heavenly body and its origin, and was it a planet?
It was a long time ago a piece of a planet.
Oh,
Yes. Now it is just the piece,
okay. Because
and not the planet.
okay, because I was told its representation now is to be a healer in the 21st
You can
century.
use it that way, but it has a very specific vibration. The vibration is the idea of, well, I'll put it colloquially in your language, it is good for healing the idea of any kinds of connections you're holding on to of the past that don't serve you. Yes?
Yes, yes.
It has a specific frequency that is sort of bent in that direction, which signifies and sort of reflects the idea of holding on to the past of it being a planet when it is now not a planet and needs to be taken at face value for what it is.
Okay.
Yes?
That makes sense, yes.
So it helps bring you into the present. And another way to say that is, yes, it helps bring you into the 21st century, which is why its meaning has changed.
Ah, okay.
Does that help you?
Yes, thank you for that clarification.
You are welcome.
All right.
Now, by all means, go strike a match.
Thank you, Bashar.
And see what you can learn from that flame.
Okay.
The match and the flame within you. Yes? All
Yes,
right.
thank you.
Yes.
Greetings, Bashar.
And a you good day.
I'd like a mirror maze to go through, and I was thinking of that is what's going to show, like, how you're getting in to this reality. Like, because it's showing Daryl's reflection in the prism thing behind him.
What are you asking?
Okay. So there's a mirror maze, and there's a bee with a wing in half, and I was thinking, what is a bee? And I was going through it, and then I was thinking, a bee should be able to fly, and it started to fly. How can I use the mirror maze and to, like, choose probabilities and...
Well, what kind of a state of being did you experience when you had those perceptions? How did it allow you to feel?
calm and trippy?
All right, well, then it's showing you that that's the state of being to come from in all endeavors in your life. Come from that centered state. It's showing you to get you to remember that existence is, even though we talked about the idea of positive and negative and neutral, is actually very slightly bent in the positive direction, because a neutral state allows you the opportunity to choose what you prefer. So even if you just let go and flow into the current of existence in a neutral state, the current will slowly carry you in the positive direction. So it's showing you how to use the neutral state in a way that will help carry you in the positive direction for yourself. So come from that balanced state, that calm state, that peaceful state, that neutral state in all things that you choose to do in life. And if you just go with the flow, it will carry you where you need to be carried. Does that help?
Yes.
All right.
You mentioned a psychedelic stronger than DMT. I was wondering what that was.
Well, there are many different kinds of ways to use the teachers of the earth. DMT can be used in a soft way, a gentle way, or a very powerful way. It has a lot to do with your state of being. It has a lot to do with the specific dosage. It has a lot to do with the way in which you might actually take it in. Of course, there are such things also as what you call ayahuasca and many other kinds of teachers on the earth that can take you on vast journeys into yourself. Again, it's just about what you're attracted to use, but by all means, if you should choose to join such a teacher, please remember that, like we just said, the teacher's fundamental job is to familiarize you with certain states of being so that ultimately you can just create those states of being yourself and no longer need the teacher to do it for you. Yes?
Yes.
So, whatever you're attracted to is what will work most strongly for you at the moment, as long as you remember that at some point it's really teaching you how to create that state for yourself. It doesn't have to feel the same. You just have to know that every time you remember having been in the state, you're actually in the state again. Even if it doesn't feel the same, you're in the state you need to be in that is correct for the you happen to be at that moment. In fact, as we have sometimes said, the trick of that is, if you can remember having been in that state, you actually already have to be in the state to even have the memory of being in the state. Because you can't perceive what you're not the vibration of. So you would never have the ability to remember a state if you weren't already in that state. That's the trick. Does that help?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Hello, Bashar.
And a you good day.
I have one question for you.
Yes?
Why don't humans get heart cancer?
Why don't humans get heart cancer?
Yes, sir.
Is the question that he asked. Because as we will discuss tomorrow evening of your time in the Triad Mind transmission, the heart is receiving a direct flow of energy from the higher mind in a certain frequency that does not permit such things to exist. Now, there can be obviously what you would call heart disease, but that is for a different reason, and we will go into this more deeply tomorrow night of your time.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
All right. Thank you. You could say, we will get to the heart of the matter.
Good evening, Bashar.
And a you good day.
I have 3 questions. The first one is, as a child, I saw this being in my grandmother's basement in the dark, and I didn't speak to it, didn't speak to me, but I was drawn down there, and I looked at it, and it was a being in a lotus position with a tremendous blue light around it, the kind of blue you see in the stove.
Yes.
Who was that and what was that?
All of you have different kinds of guides. You understand this?
Yes.
You were given an opportunity to see one of your spirit guides. that was there for you, letting you know that that guide is always there for you. And the energy reflected in the blue light, again, is representative of a state of being, so that every time you remember that blue light, you're in the appropriate state of being that represents your best ability to move through life in a creative and joyful and constructive and positive way. So it's acting like a beacon, like a lantern, in a sense, by remembering that light. Yes?
Yes.
It attempted to imprint that in your mind so you would always have a reference for that energy, for that state of being. And so, what else?
So, years later, I was in the desert with a guide or a teacher. It was my first time, and we got lost.
Lost in the desert.
Yes, lost in the desert. And she was experiencing the death of her like daughter, and I was just following her, and I realized that we were lost.
Yes.
And I had no idea where we were.
Sometimes that's a good thing. It breaks you from all assumptions and expectations of where you think you need to be and allows you to truly improvise and use where you are in the strongest possible way. Sometimes you have to get lost to really find yourself.
And what happened was that this feeling came over me,
Yes.
and out of my life said, the all,
Yes.
the all,
Yes.
the all.
Yes.
And we went back to our camp, and it's like my life expanded and merged with everything without any guidelines or intellectual. We went right back to my camp.
Yes. Like I said, sometimes you have to lose yourself to find yourself.
And my last question is, I feel I'm on the verge of breaking through.
To what? More of yourself?
More of myself. Exactly. More
Are
of
you
myself.
acting on your highest passion every moment that you can to the best of your ability with no insistence on a particular outcome? Yes, no, maybe? No. Hesitation usually means no.
Yes. No.
All right. So the next logical question is, why not?
That's a good question.
Thank you. Do you have a good answer?
Yes. No.
What is the resistance to being your true self? You sense that a breakthrough is about to happen. The key to unlocking that breakthrough is that formula we just gave you. If you always choose to know that what is your highest passion at any moment, what contains the most excitement more than any other option, is a vibrational reflection of your true frequency, and you act on it to the best that you're able to, taking it as far as you can till you can take it no further, and you do that with absolutely no insistence or assumption as to what the outcome is supposed to look like, you are actually using the instruction manual for how reality works. And when you do it that way and follow that formula, you will see your life will unfold and open up in a very, very magical way. You will allow the breakthroughs that need to happen to come to you in an effortless way. You will see that synchronicity will expand and increase in your life and show you exactly what you need to do, in what order you need to do it, and when and how. And all the tools of the kit of excitement and passion will unfold before you so that you can flow through life along the path of least resistance and discover whatever may be still within your unconscious mind that is out of alignment with your excitement, so that you can identify it and let it go and add that energy to your excitement. And that process will leave absolutely nothing, and I mean nothing, relevant out of your life.
Thank you.
Does that help you?
Yes.
Thank you. Now get lost so that you can find yourself again.
Hello, Bashar.
And a you good day.
Awesome.
Before you continue,
Sir.
the epilogue to the last conversation is to remember that this is the reason you created the experience of physical reality, so that you could forget who you are, so that in forgetting who you are, becoming lost, you can remember who you are from a new point of view. You can discover something about yourself you couldn't without forgetting who you are. Getting lost is what allows you to discover yourself again from a new perspective. You do it all the time. It's the nature of your physical experience. It's the nature of your physical process. Do continue.
Thank you. Let's see. Hey, Bashar.
Speak up.
Thank you, sir. We've been taking pictures in the morning of the sun coming up, and we have been seeing planetary objects.
Speak up.
We have been seeing planetary objects by taking film in the morning, and I was wondering, what are we seeing?
Can you describe what you're seeing more specifically?
Well, they look like large colored orbs that move around the sun, and they can be obscured by clouds, so we know that they're not lens flare.
Well, there are many, many, many different kinds of reasons for the existence of what you generally refer to on your planet as the orbs. The orbs can be a somewhat energetically physicalized representation of an extra-dimensional being or a spirit. An orb can be a temporary impression or intrusion from one reality to another that is poking into your reality and manifesting the energy in the form of an orb. It can be a probe from certain high-level technological civilizations that themselves actually are what you would call artificially intelligent. They can be different kinds of energetic phenomenon that exist in nature that you're unfamiliar with at this point. It can be many different things. You have to kind of take them on a case-by-case basis to understand which one you might be looking at any given moment.
As planetary objects, because we're seeing more than at least 7, sometimes 12, different colors, different sizes.
Well, different colors simply represent the idea of different energy states. And different sizes can represent many different things. It can represent the level of energy that you're experiencing. It can sometimes actually be representative of a true size in physical dimensions as you understand it. It can also be somewhat misleading sometimes because sometimes translations from one dimension to another may appear in your reality to be a size that actually has nothing at all to do with the size of that thing in its own reality. It's just the way it gets translated into yours, sort of like it gets distorted.
Because we can't see with our naked eyes, but we definitely see it on the film. Could it be like reflection off like a glass dome? Is there a glass dome?
Your films are sometimes very sensitive to frequencies that your eyes can't see yet. But as you expand your consciousness, more and more of you are beginning to be able to actually use your senses to see the orbs with your eyes. In actual fact, of course, you're seeing them with your brain, but you get the point.
Of planetary size, because they're larger than the sun sometimes.
That is an illusion.
That's an illusion, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, on the dome question, that's it. But I want to say thank you for the imagination. I've actually changed my whole life.
Well, thank you for changing your life.
Yeah, just based on the imagination principle.
Yes.
It's all imagination.
Well, it is, yes.
And the neutral position actually allows you to be able to make the cake the way you want to.
Imagine that.
I know. It's awesome.
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much, Bashar. That's it for me.
Thank you.
Next time.
Hi, Bashar.
And you good day.
This is gonna sound weird, but I be getting this dragon, my dreams.
Yes.
I feel like I cross his reality and he doesn't mind. We go for rides and he takes me on these crystal caves and falls and
Yes.
I just, for some reason, I want it to be real. I don't want my...
It is real.
It is...
in another dimension.
Okay.
It's not physical in your dimension. It's real in another dimension. It's as real to them in their dimension as your physical reality is to you. But of course, remember that your physical reality isn't real. So what's the difference?
Okay, so I'm not making this up in my head and... So
the experience is the only thing that needs to be real. What you get out of the experience is the true reality. The symbols that are used, that is simply what needs to happen because that's what will work for you to give you the experience that you need so you will have the information you need to move forward in your life in the way that works best for you. It's all real in some context. You can't imagine non-reality. That doesn't necessarily mean it's physically real, but that doesn't mean it's not real in its own context, in its own reality, in its own dimension. There's a wide range of concepts that are contained in the word real. But you can always bring it down to, what was the experience? What did you get out of it? What did you learn? How did it feel? That's the reality that's important to focus on. Because that's why it happened. To give you that experience, to give you the information, to give you the lessons you learned about yourself in that experience. So it's not really about focusing on, was it really real? In all the ways it needs to be, yes.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Hello, Bashar.
And you, good day.
So, all the range of emotions that we feel,
Yes.
they're all neutral?
The idea in general is that there is a neutral circumstance under it, but the emotions you feel are usually the result of a definition you've given to the neutral circumstance.
But what
It's
about
the
the
definitions
emotions?
that generate the experience of the emotion. The neutral circumstance may be the framework that allow you to generate the emotion, but it's not that the emotions themselves are neutral.
So, emotions can be positive and negative.
Absolutely. Energetically speaking.
All right.
Yes.
So, when negative emotions come up,
Yes. They can still be used in positive ways, such as the idea you would call fear. So if you find yourself in fear, you can say, how can I use this, which might be representative of a negative belief within me, to find out what that negative belief is? First of all, the fear is bringing your attention to the fact that it's being generated by the fact that you might have a definition that's out of alignment with your true self. That's the first step, and therefore fear acts as a messenger, knocking on your door and bringing your attention to the fact that you have something within your consciousness that you were unaware of. Now that it's brought your attention to it, you can work with it. So you can say, thank you, fear, you're my friend. And now that it's done its job, it can go on its merry way because there is nothing now to be afraid of.
so if fear is my friend, then it's not really negative, is it?
You can use it in a positive way. You can create the experience to be positive, even though the mechanism itself may seem to have been generated initially from a negative definition. Anything can play double duty. Everything, as we said, starts from the neutral place, but the neutral place contains both positive and negative. So yes, everything can be expressed or experienced positively or negatively, but each thing unto itself is still representative of a certain state that was generated by a positive or a negative definition. So even if its roots, even if its origins happen because of a negative mechanism, that doesn't mean you can't turn it around to get a positive effect for yourself. But that doesn't mean that the fear itself is positive. The effect in the way you use it is positive.
So, it's all about the response that I give to.
It's all about the response. That's all it's all about. It's not about what happens, it's about what you do with what happens.
So, can I say that, for example, fear is or could be part of the circumstances? Like, it doesn't really
not
matter.
the neutral circumstance, no. But it's part of the circumstance you've created as a result of defining the neutral circumstance in a negative way. You have to understand that there may be more than one way to use your word circumstance. Mm-hmm. There can be an originating circumstance that might be neutral.
Yeah.
But then there can be the circumstance that is the result of you defining the neutral circumstance in a certain way. That's still, in your language, considered a circumstance. But the circumstance that's the result of the definition is not the same circumstance that's the neutral one to begin with.
Okay.
Yes?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Your language. Telepathy is so much easier.
And since we're speaking about the fear,
Yes.
A year ago I was talking to you.
Yes.
And you told me to follow my fear.
Yes.
And it was...
Follow your fear to find out what it is that's holding you back from being yourself.
Yeah, you just said to follow my fear.
We said more than that.
Maybe telepathically.
Yes?
Yeah. Okay. So fear wasn't like, it wasn't my intuition masking as fear, or was it?
Intuition about what?
About what I should do. That I was
Well,
perceiving.
you can do that. As we have said, you can make your excitement seem like anxiety. You can disguise your anxiety to seem like excitement. You have to have honest self-investigation in order to tell the difference, and that's why we said follow it. If you understand how to follow it and how to use it, you will find out what the definition is, and you'll know whether it is you're masking your excitement or emboldening your anxiety to appear as if it's excitement. You'll be able to eventually tell the difference. Just takes practice, that's all. And honesty about your investigation within yourself.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Certainly, you can tell the difference really if you stop and think about it and let go of all of the conditions that you put on circumstances. If you just let that all go and just sit with the idea of the experience, certainly on a fundamental level, you can tell the difference between true excitement and anxiety. Can't you?
I can.
All right. So all you need to do is understand that in every given situation where you might feel a little confused about what you're actually doing, go back to the fundamental place where you can tell the difference. And then start from there to look at the circumstance that exists, look at the idea of your excitement and your anxiety if it's there, and it can help identify and inform for you which is which and what you're doing.
Okay.
Because then you have a basic, shall we say, litmus test for what that actually feels like, one way or the other. So when you get used to the difference in the vibrational feeling, you'll become more sensitive to picking up that resonance when you are disguising your anxiety as excitement or when you are disguising your excitement as anxiety. You'll become sensitized to the vibrational difference the more you familiarize yourself with the vibrational difference on a more fundamental level when you're not allowing conditions to get in the way.
Can you have both?
Both what?
Anxiety and excitement at the same time?
No. You can flip back and forth so fast that you think it's happening at the same time, but it's not. You're actually choosing. Negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive. Remember that you're flickering in and out of reality billions of times per second. It may seem like it's all happening at once, but it's not. It's always a choice, no matter how fast.
BASHAR, how come you know us so well? Can you experience same things as us?
Understand that when we decide we're going to make contact with a civilization, we will always choose to have at least one life in that civilization so that the civilization is understandable to us. Therefore, we are drawing upon the experiences that exist within the lives in other civilizations we've connected to in order to understand how to respond to you based on the experiences you have in your civilization.
So you're cross-connecting to your parallel.
Yes. Yes. It's part of the training we get as first contact specialists to know how to do that. Will
BASHAR,
that help you?
Yeah. And would you like to do a magic trick on me?
A magic trick?
Yeah.
All right. Turn around 3 times. Tell me when you've done it.
Done.
Now disappear.